not too long ago, a couple years Members, good morning. Friends and family of Mr. Xavier Adda. Uh, we apologize. Some of the members, including the Senate, have already a prior schedule, but some members should be trickling in. And we have staff around the legislature that will be stopping in, if not listening, at their respective offices. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Xavier Adda.
Good morning, half a day, Tirado, and welcome. My name is Xavier Adda, and today I will be presenting on the Economic Diversification Strategy and the CNMI. This is a completion of the late Congressman Ivan Blanco's global internship. With that being said, before I get started my presentation today, I did want to mention that this presentation is in memory of Congressman Blanco. As I'll mention later in my presentation today, in finding ways to connect back to my roots, which is the CNMI, there was no person better than leader who was so inspirational and moving than Congressman Blanco. So I'm humbled and honored to be representing him today with the work we've done over the summer. With that being said, talking a little bit more about our agenda for today, August 11th at 10 a.m. To begin with, I'll be going over some historical context of the internship as well as myself, just to give a bird's eye view of what we have been working on. In addition to that, we will be talking about the problem statement and some evidence of concern surrounding that as well. Moving on, we'll be talking about the economic development and diversification within the CNMI. And towards the end of my presentation, I'll be talking about some proposed solutions as well as next action items for the legislature. With that being said, talking a little bit more about Congressman Blanco's opportunity, he was really focused on leveraging talent across the country to aid the CNMI and longstanding issues. And with this, there were some ideas of engaging new and innovative ideas to address longstanding issues. And with that, just speaking a little bit more logistically, this was an unpaid internship opportunity guided by Congressman Blanco. So from beginning to end, I was under his watchful eye. And we used Zoom as well as some email chains to make sure that I was keeping on track with helping to provide legislation. And with that, there was plans on providing this on an annual basis in addition to being that this was a pilot program. To talk a little bit about myself, that guy in that red sweater right there, my name's Xavier Adda. I'm currently a second year at the University of Denver. I did attend San Vicente Elementary, so I was a Canary, and moved to Colorado when I was about age 11. Currently, I'm a second year studying political science and criminology with minors in leadership. So just a little bit more about myself. And with that, and starting the internship with Congressman Blanco, I remember calling him and I was like, Congressman Blanco, I don't even know where to start. Like, where do I look? And he's like, the CNMI has faced three issues for a long number of years. And those three issues are the economy, workforce development, and healthcare. And I was like, wow, that is really broad. But with that, we did focus on the economic condition within the CNMI, and that was his primary concern. So with that, and delving into research from federal annual reports as well as newspaper headlines, I found all historical data points to a need of economic diversification. And with that, we found that tourism was the primary economic pillar. And with that being one of the sole pillars, this was subject to external forces. For example, we have the typhoons that occur on occasion here in the CNMI, such as Solador and Yutu. Those are the biggest ones, which happened in 2015 and 2018. Likewise, there's infrastructure disruption, such as the underwater cable break that has happened here in the CNMI. And as we are living through now, the COVID-19 pandemic has pressed unprecedented issues affecting the economy in a correlation to tourism. And lastly, federal statutory impacts, which has changes in immigration and minimum wage and things of that nature as well. And with that, over the next few slides, I'll be talking about the 2008 to 2018 GDP, which all the data points to economic disruption. As we look here, this graph does a very good job of showing the CNMI's economy over the years. We see rises and falls within it, but most importantly, I would like to point out in 2016, we see a huge spike in tourism, being that there's a new type of industry involved in 2016. We see economy jump all the way to 26.4, but in 2017 is still doing really well. In 2018, however, there is a drastic decrease in the economy, and that is due to Typhoon Yutu, which happened in 2018, and that caused a decrease in the economy. But being that nobody can control those factors, it is a factor to be taken into consideration. And with that, this next graph shows a does a really good job of showing the workforce type here in the CNMI. So the dark blue, as we see, represents the foreign workers, and the light blue represents the United States workers. As we see in 2008, there's a drastic decrease, and that's because there was federal statutory impacts that put statutes in place to promote the United States workforce in the CNMI. And as we see, there's a steady decrease within the light blue and a sudden increase for the United States workers. So very important to point out there as well. Um, the CNMI has done a very well job from in the span of 10 years, going from 71% foreign workers all the way down to 51% in that short time span. And with that, getting a little bit more into the structure of the proposed strategy, the CNMI has a lot of distinct advantages. To begin with, we are part of the US as a US territory, and with that, we are English-speaking population, which is very distinct in this region. And that as well, time zone coverages and H-1B exemptions are another big program and part of that as well. Interestingly enough, there's a proof of concept for the proposed strategy, which I'll be talking about in the next few slides. But if we think about LTA and IntelliSecure, which is now known as Proof Points partnership, they have provided 20 full-time employees, which are all local hires. Laddie Training Academy is a local entity which helps in providing training for local workers to be put into jobs as well. And Proofpoint is a Colorado-based cybersecurity firm which relocated to the CNMI as well. And with that, all local hires were guaranteed competitive salaries as well as health benefits, which included coverage and 401k as well. This was all developed during the pandemic. And talking to Congressman Blanco, we were astonished at the ways the CNMI was quickly able to adapt in the COVID-19 realm. So interesting to see the future steps ahead. My biggest thing, though, is there is no environmental footprint with this program, being that they just use an office space in the 360 Business Plaza. And with that, we kept our island lush and beautiful as well. Talking a little bit more about the proposed framework, the CNMI could potentially leverage H-1B exemption. Speaking on H-1B before I go any further, it's important to note that the H-1B is a type of employee. So if we think about the big companies, Facebook, Twitter, Google, Snapchat, all those big companies have to hire employees outside of the United States because they're a little bit more skilled in the areas that they need them to be covered in. And with that, the United States government put a national cap, which is 65,000. And interestingly enough, I was telling Congressman Blanco that the cap is usually breached within like 2 weeks. The deadline is April 1st for all big companies to submit their applications. And by April 14th, it's already clocked out. So with that, the CNMI could potentially host H-1B workers here on island for national mid-sized IT firms. And with that, they could serve as training members for CNMI locals, which could potentially provide jobs as well as help the prospering economy. And with that, the CNMI could establish a proof of concept for permanency to the H-1B exemption on island. Some benefits included are the H-1B are skilled workers with higher salaries, so our locals would get higher salaries. And the end goal, once again, there's no environmental footprint, which I'm a really big advocate for as well. Along with that, there's the ability to extend industries to Tuning and Rhoda, being that they could also serve as hubs, being that technology is all done virtually and remotely. And with that, this is a development of a growing and sustainable sector as well. Talking about recommended next steps for the legislature, the legislature could potentially work alongside CEDA and GCEA to craft industry development plans. We could use House Bill 22-70 to serve as a springboard for this next phase. And it's that there could be a limitation on the number and types of IT firms. This basically helps consistency within the CNMI's ability to support this. But another big part of this is minimum standards for participation in the CNMI IT industry. Some labor standards that I've thought of was the wage and benefit requirements, as well as leadership opportunities and promotional requirements as well, to ensure that there's growth within these industries for CNMI locals. Talking a little bit more about how it would be implemented, I thought it was really vital to have H-1B planned. Employers, they should be required to have a 3-year plan so that They can't just come to the CNMI for 1 year and then decide to leave, leaving our locals workless. At least there's a 3-year security plan for all locals. And with that, another big part of this should be that the internship should be offered on an annual basis. Being that this was a pilot program, I mean, you guys can be the judge of how well it went. But and with that, I did want to leave some time for questions or remarks for my presentation today.
Thank you, Xavier. That was a good presentation. Members, the floor is open for questions. Before I go further, if you don't mind, I'd like to introduce the members that are present. To my left, we have Representative Leila Staffler. She's the chairwoman of the Committee on Education. To her left, we have Representative Tina Sablan, who's the chairwoman of Health and Welfare. And to her left, we have Chairwoman Selena Babauta of the JGO Committee. And across, we have Representative Roy Adda. And next to him, we have Representative Joel Camacho. In the red, we have Representative John Paul Camacho. And then we have Representative Vicente Camacho, who's the chairman of Federal and Foreign Affairs Committee. And right next to you, we have Representative Denita Yanktamai, who chairs the Committee on Commerce and Tourism. And just entering the chamber is Representative Joe Flores. Thank you. Floor is open for questions, and I recognize Representative Leila Staffler.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Xavier, for this really eye-opening presentation. I really like how it focuses a lot on building capacity on our islands, for the workforce, addressing other issues that were part of the big picture. I don't have a question yet, but I just wanted to comment that I'm still processing, but I really love it. I'm very interested in apprenticeships and things like that because I know that how important it is. And so this would fit right into some of those visions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And very nice job on your presentation, Xavier. It was like what Congresswoman Leila said, was a really good eye opener. I just have a question in regards to how you guys got started this global intern program. And when you say global, is that inclusive of FSM and was Congressman Blanco also taking in people from those regions?
Yeah, that's a great question. Initially, I really just wanted to connect back to the CNMI. Over the years, I've kind of seen the growth and decrease within the economy and some other issues, and I've always been connected back to Saipan, which is where I'm from. But I remember emailing Congressman Blanco to see if he had any internship opportunities available, maybe just doing some paperwork for his office, helping draft anything, maybe doing some press releases for him. And he had mentioned he had thought of doing this, but he took the chance of making this for me this year as well. I suppose he would want to branch out to other parts of the region as well, just so we're getting ideas from all over. That would definitely be in his vision as well.
Excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Recognize Chairman Camacho.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognize Representative Roy Adda. And before we move forward, I'd like to also recognize the presence of Representative Angel Demapan.
Thank you, Speaker, and good morning, colleagues and Xavier. Before we start, I'd like to say good morning to everyone who is here in attendance. We have DPO Secretary Sixto Igisomar. We have Bank of Guam President Marcy Tumakani, and others that are here today. Thank you for joining us. It's quite obvious, no? That, and so he is a relative of mine. He's my nephew, and I did not. Although I wasn't aware in the past that you were interning with Congressman Blanco, and I'm very, very happy that you did choose him. Obviously, you doing this presentation, it's almost like Congressman Blanco is here also making that presentation, because this is exactly what he was always promoting and advocating for, is the advancement of our people moving forward, thinking about the next industry. And if, correct me if I'm wrong, of my understanding, I'm also trying to process as much as I can. When you talk about potential industries within the mentioning Google and Snapchat and all that stuff, and them having a cap of the much needed workers, they're always competing to race for that number, and it's always maxed out. But in the states, they need more of those HB
H1B.
H1B visa workers, but they're when they meet the cap, they have to outsource it somewhere, right? It's almost like a call center kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So the proposal that, and the idea that you and late Congressman Blanco had, was to open up that industry here. And because we have the advantage of, do we have a cap in the CNMI for H1B? Could you imagine how much of uh, opportunities that actually opens up? It, like, again, I'm still trying to process, and it's opening up my mind to this industry, right? And that presentation was a very good presentation, although very short, but a lot of
Yeah.
things to
Mhm.
process. And I really would like to learn more about this industry because of um, the potential it has. And obviously, Google and all these major industries in the IT, they need uh, what you call that, more of the H1B skilled workers, right? And then you guys also have a plan in place. Again, a product of Congressman Blanco's forward thinking is to advance our people by giving them also security, and not impacting the environment in any negative way, right? And then taking this region and bridging it with, again, colleague Joel Camacho here, with branching over and then working with the neighboring islands of, the Marshalls and everywhere in Micronesia. Um, but yeah, uh, thank you for that, and I look forward to talking more about this. Is the PowerPoint available for us
Yeah, I could
after
email
this?
it to Speaker Villagomez to make sure the updated version is in his hands as well.
Mm. Uh, Other than that, I really appreciate it, and not only am I a proud uncle, but as a born and as a Chamorro, I am proud that there's a product of this island in over and coming, bringing back whatever it is, that skill set you have gained and knowledge and offering it to us. Opening up the door to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Adda. Recognize Representative Tina Sabla.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. Adda, for that presentation. Well done. Thank you for all the work that you did. And I really just wanted to ask, I have a couple questions. I think they're related. One would be, what barriers should we be aware of, if any, because this H-1B exemption has been in place for years now, right? And so I guess my question would be, why haven't more companies taken advantage of it? And if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear them. And second, I was hoping you could talk a little bit more about your process. So, who did you consult with in the course of this internship? Did you work with CEDA and any other the companies that you mentioned that are already doing IT related business out here? So, could you address both those questions?
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the first one just so I understand it clearly?
Barriers.
Okay,
Are there
yes.
barriers? Are there
Yes.
reasons that we should know of for why companies haven't taken more advantage of the exemption?
So I actually had a meeting with the Proofpoint president, the board president for Proofpoint, and I just asked him like why was it implemented in that year instead of previous years. And he said, well, we didn't know CNMI was a place. And while that's really shocking to most people right here, because CNMI is such a great place, it's true. Most people in the stateside don't know that the CNMI is part of the U.S. territory, and they don't know that we have an H-1B exemption. So if we implement something in the future, more programs would be aware of the CNMI, which could potentially also attract tourism in addition to that. In reference to your question about the people I consulted with, Congressman Blanco, man, that guy loves data. I remember weekly he would give me like these annual reports that local entities would produce, and they're like 100 pages. So I like read through those to grab most of my data from that, as well as some of the government offices as well in the United States sections to make sure that I was getting credible sources as well. In addition to interviewing with the Proof Point board president now.
Is there a written report that you could provide in addition to the PowerPoint?
There isn't one, but I would be more than happy to draft one and send it over to Speaker Villagomez.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Tina. The floor is still open. Recognizing Representative Joel.
Just a quick question. I noticed that you're studying political science, right, with an emphasis on what was
It's a double major in criminology.
criminology.
Yes.
I too myself am a criminal justice graduate from Boise State
Really?
University. Yes,
Nice.
and I'm hoping that your field of study is going to lead you one day to maybe run for office here in the CNMI and contribute.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Joel. Recognize Representative John Paul Sablan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Xavier, for a well done presentation. Just a question on the H1B that cap with the 65,000. Is that a nationwide? I know that the cinema is exempted. Is that nationwide in the United States, or
Yes.
is that each state 65,000
That's
nationwide?
nationwide. So all companies within the United States.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarity.
Thank you, Representative John Paul Sablan. Recognize Representative Leila Staff.
Thank you, Speaker. I got a question now. The people who, what's the name of the business that is currently open
Proof
now?
point.
How did they hear about us?
So the LTA board had reached out to them to see if they would potentially like to move over here. I believe it was 2018 or 19 where they actually came to the CNMI to do a presentation and just show them the potential the CNMI has, and they ended up going for it. So that's just kind of how they were introduced. So yes, Laddie Training Academy.
Do you have any recommendations on how we can promote our place out there?
I think first steps in taking some baby steps to the big picture, right? It would have to start with proving a proof of concept that already works, and then doing some more further research about the types of companies that could potentially come to the CNMI, and meeting with them as well to bridge that gap, and then definitely just provide a sense of security and transitioning from stateside to CNMI. I mean, given that it's still a U.S. territory, it is 60,000 miles away, so definitely something to take into consideration as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Floor is still open. Recognize Chairwoman Danita Yangtamay.
Thank you, Speaker. And thank you, Xavier. Yes,
you.
that was a great presentation. And yes, we're all looking forward for these great things, right? So as your proud uncle stated earlier, the call centers, that will be great for us to be known globally. It's just like when we call Amazon or somewhere and we would the party on the other end would have an Indian accent.
Yeah,
So that's the
exactly.
we should have that over here because it will be great opportunity for people, no, for jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, just like you, I've shared for frustrations in calling Apple and Amazon and waiting an hour and a half just to speak with someone who I can't even understand. So definitely that's a big part of that as well.
We're good, Representative Yangtamay?
Oh.
You're good?
I yield. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Yeah. We'll have one with a local accent too, right?
Right?
Hafa malago mo. Just kidding. Floor still open, members. Recognize Representative Selena Babalta.
I don't have a question for you, Xavier, but I want to commend you for a well-researched project. It sounds like you put a lot of time and effort into reading and researching to come up with plans like this. Our CNMI government needs you, talents like yours. I too am a CJ major from Chaminade, along with another degree. But I want to commend you for taking the initiative to come up with this presentation. I'm sure, CNMI government leaders who are even tenured in their positions could use talents like yours. And I hope you consider putting your talents to good use with our CNMI government and or the private sector. I want to say welcome home and congratulations.
Thank you. It's good to be home.
Thank you, Rep. Babalta. Any more comments? Recognize Representative Angel Demapan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to apologize for coming in late. Congressman Flores and I came from a funeral down at Mount Carmel Cathedral, so we missed the bulk of your presentation, but I caught the second half of it on live stream driving up here. So I was dividing my attention between focusing on the road and
Right.
listening to your wonderful recommendations. But I don't have any questions either, and I just want to follow suit with Chairwoman Babal to thank you for taking the time to do this um, and to come all the way back home to share this information with us. But I think above all, it's to honor the memory of Leader Blanco, who you had the wonderful opportunity to intern with. And I just wanted to express that our gratitude for your contributions, for your work with Leader Blanco, and for always thinking about giving back to your home. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Damapan. I recognize Representative Royada.
Sorry, now a question popped into my head. Do you, um, when you say that there's a cap and it's always, what is it, maxed out
Mhm.
at a certain time? So obviously the skilled workers are still needed. So are there places where currently those major industries outsource for that you can?
Yeah. So typically they'll have to outsource to like India or the Philippines just because that's where it's centrally located. Typically, if the work's needed, they'll actually move them to the United States, and it's a little bit more pricier. But so once those caps reach, they have to wait another year to renew those workers or find some other ones in the surrounding areas as well. Yeah.
And I guess with the knowledge of and the resourcefulness of our late colleague Blanco, I guess he thought that this would be a good place to also set up shop because of all the advantages that we present, for businesses to actually, you know, um, make their business grow here. The incentives and that we give out. Not to mention also within the health field. One of the important things that I do know is that uh, a lot of places or U.S. Medical facilities they outsource their billing over to this part of the region, only because we're a day ahead of the U.S.
Yeah.
and the process is like a day faster or advanced in terms of other places. So there's a lot of opportunities here, colleagues. This is a real thing and a major uh, oppor- um, opportunity for all the struggles that we're going through, especially with the recent variant that came in. We need to look at other industries rather than just the tourism, as you mentioned, was the driving industry, and this is again a potential, has a lot of potential. I hope that we continue, you know, carrying on the late Blanco's work, and Xavier, we're looking forward to working with you and pushing this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments? Recognize Representative Joel.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. I just want to make my last comment before we close out. First off, when I heard about your presentation this morning, I made it an absolute point to show up today because, as you know, that I was really close to our dearly departed Rep Blanco, and we always knew he was such a statistician, and he was like you mentioned, he loved data. And for you to be here today to honor him in this wonderful presentation, I just want to thank you and thank your family for the support and supporting you. And we look forward to seeing what you can bring to the table in the future for our CNMI. And we thank you once again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Joel. And with that, we'll go ahead and close this presentation. Thank you very much. Oh, you'd like to say a
Yeah,
few words?
before we do leave, I did want to say thank you one more time for having me. It's an honor, and I'm humbled to have represented him today. I will send over the presentation to Speaker Villagomez just for all your reference, as well as some contact points as well. But thank you once again.
Thank you, Xavier. Yeah, let's do a group photo. Family, friends, please come up here. Is the sergeant here?